the day.
Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, who is a Democrat, is with us from CNN Washington. Congressman, a pleasure to have you on. You know, the big question for a lot of people is regarding this intelligence, and is there anything new that we're seeing regarding the Iranian threat, something that we haven't seen before from Iran in the region? What are you hearing?
Well, I can't comment on the specific intelligence. However, there are some elevated threats, but not material ones. I think the biggest question that people have is, for instance, whether both sides are miscalculating, whether the Iranians might attempt to bluster and, might engage some of their militias in Iraq because they fear that they're going to be attacked. And then on the other side, whether we might preemptively engage in some military action, fearing that they are going to be attacked. In any case, Iran is a bad actor. We have to work with our allies and partners in the region to contain and address that threat. But nobody in Congress, at least I haven't talked to anybody, has an appetite for war. And we have to de-escalate immediately.
The thing, I guess, Congressman, is Iran has been up to mischief in the region generally for years and years, be it in Iraq, in Syria, in Yemen, elsewhere. The point is whether they're doing anything different. And that's the point that's brought us to this, is that there seems to be some elevated concrete threat. Even talk that they were behind the attacks on those ships. Did you see evidence that convinced you that was true?
There is some evidence of that. That being said, right now, we can't have an escalation into a shooting war. And Congress needs to be consulted for the use of any military force. And when I walked out of that briefing today, I didn't walk away with confidence that the Trump administration believes that it needs to consult Congress with regard to that issue. In fact, I walked away with a feeling that they feel they need to be given a free hand to do whatever they want, and that's very dangerous.
So I have to ask you this then. I mean, when you look at the way the U.S. responded with the announcement of the U.S. The aircraft carrier being deployed to the region, which was already on its way, but the fact that it was announced, and the bomber task force that was sent to the region, was that response and the rhetoric justified when you know the intelligence?
Well, Chairman Dunford is very well respected in Congress and in military circles, and his judgment that increasing our military presence to protect our personnel in Iraq, as well as our interests in the region, is something that people are not second-guessing. However, we have to realize that there are a lot of military assets in one small place, namely the Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf region there. And any kind of miscalculation on either side could lead to armed conflict. And once that happens, it's very hard to de-escalate.
Oh, it would be a nightmare. Having covered Iraq, that would be a picnic compared to Iran, because Iran ain't Iraq. One of the things that I'm curious about, and it's troubled me with how the wording has been from the administration, is they're saying any attack on U.S. interests or allies by Iran or its proxies. And there's a lot of talk about Shia proxies in Iraq and elsewhere. They are not always under direct control of Tehran. And that's concerning a lot of people, that some Shia militia somewhere in Iraq or elsewhere may do something to U.S. interests, and bam, you're in a war when Iran did not order it.
That's correct. There are close affiliations between these Shia militias in Iraq and Iran. However, they're not necessarily under direct control. That being said, the Iranians could keep them on a short or a long leash. We don't know how long that leash is right now. And if they decide to take some action, clearly we would protect ourselves, but the concern in Congress is whether we would use that as a pretext to go to war. And then John Bolton and the War Caucus would take over and then create an absolute catastrophe in Iran. We cannot go that direction. No way, no how.
Lastly, just quickly, because we have to go, regarding Iran policy by the Trump administration. Obviously, a lot of people don't know what exactly, if it is a policy on Iran. What should the objective be? Is this about getting Iran back to the table to renegotiate the JCPOA?
Good question. I know that Secretary Pompeo had a 12-point list of demands that he wanted to make of the Iranian regime, and apparently the Iranian regime views this as kind of dead on arrival. I personally believe there has to be some direct line of communications at this point. I think that Donald Trump is expecting a phone call from Tehran, and Tehran is expecting a phone call from Donald Trump or something along those lines. But the point is this: at some point there has to be some talks. We know Iran is a bad actor in the regime, but nobody wants war. And we can't have a miscalculation on either side that leads to war. So let's tamp down the rhetoric. Let's stop the tweets. Let's start talking, and let's de-escalate right now. And then long term, we can figure out, where do we go from here? But please, we got to avoid a shooting war right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I applaud the congressman also who said, the president can pick up the phone and talk to Kim Jong-un, but not to the Iranians. And it's a much more serious situation at the moment. Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.